The man arrested after rushing the stage at a Donald Trump rally in Ohio yesterday, speaking out for the first time. This video capturing the moment the 22-year-old Tommy DeMassimo tried to confront the Republican frontrunner. The Secret Service stepping in fast to stop him. He is now charged with disorderly conduct and inducing panic. Trump fired back at DeMassimo on Twitter. He accused him of having ties to ISIS. He tweeted, USSS, the Secret Service, did an excellent job stopping the maniac rushing to the stage. He has ties to ISIS, should be in jail. Well, our own Martin Savage sat down with him today. What did he say, Marty?
Well, you know, Poppy, there have been obviously a great many protests that have taken place in Donald Trump rallies, but this is the first person we've known of to actually sort of charge the stage, and it seemed to raise protests to a new level here, and that's what I wanted to find out about. 22-year-old Tommy DeMassimo is a college senior. He goes to school here in Ohio. He's bright, he seems intelligent, but he's obviously very politically active. And what he wanted to do, he said, was to deny Trump the stage. But I asked him, what were you really trying to do? Listen to the response.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking that Donald Trump is a bully, and he is nothing more than that. He is somebody who is just saying a lot of bold things. He's making bold claims, but I can see right through that, and I can see that he's truly just a coward, and he's opportunistic, and he's willing to destroy this country for power for himself.
All right, well, that's your motivation. But what were you thinking at that moment?
Why did you do what you did?
I was thinking that I could get up on stage and take his podium away from him and take his mic away from him and send a message to all people out in the country who wouldn't consider themselves racist, who wouldn't consider themselves approving of what type of violence Donald Trump is allowing at his rallies, and send them a message that we can be strong, we can find our strength, and we can stand up against Donald Trump and against this new wave he's ushering in of truly just violent white supremacist ideas.
Were you, if you had made it to that stage, were you going to attack him?
No, not at all. There would have been no point. Donald Trump is 6'3". I'm 5'9", maybe. You know, he's a giant man surrounded by thousands of followers, 12 Secret Service, and a former Ohio State offensive lineman. That would have accomplished nothing.
But can you see how people might have perceived that you were?
Of course, and I wasn't expecting there to be as much Secret Service as there was there that day. From what I had sort of seen, there hadn't been that much in a contained area, so I thought my chances of getting up on stage and getting to the podium would have been better. But again, it was more important for me to show that there are people out there who aren't afraid of Donald Trump. He says scary things. He lets his people do scary things. He's threatened Mexico, Islam, you name it, and yet I'm unafraid. And if I can be unafraid enough to go take his podium away from him, then we all can be afraid enough to not let this man walk into the White House.
DeMassimo stresses that he was never, ever intending to do any harm to the candidate. He also says that he had been thinking about this for a while. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment action. He actually started thinking about doing this, Poppy, last November, but he thought that the Trump phenomena would fade away. It never did, and that's why he felt he had to make a protest, and this was a way of doing that. Poppy?
He certainly made his voice heard, and it's important to actually hear from him after seeing those actions. But, Marty, Donald Trump, that tweet I showed at the beginning, tying him to ISIS, what did DeMassimo say about that?
He says that, first of all, he emphatically denies that he has anything to do with ISIS. And that, in fact, what happened here was that there had been video online. Somebody took the video of him that had been posted online previously and doctored it, added Arabic writing, and put in music that sounded very much like the music you hear under ISIS videos, and put that out there. In other words, that somebody visually tried to frame him. Here's how he talks about his thoughts.
I in no way harmed anyone, intended to harm anyone. I'm not a member of ISIS. I have no known ties to ISIS. I've never been out of the country. I only speak English.
Christian?
Christian, yeah.
So, you know, there you have it. He says that he believes this was orchestrated by Trump supporters, but he cannot believe that Donald Trump himself, in some tweet, would make the association of linking him to ISIS something that he, like almost every other American, detests and hates.